And welcome back to the Now Morning Show. As we continue our conversation this morning, joining us is Economist Dr. Patrick Watson to help unpack the National Budget 2026 themed TNT First, building economic fairness through accountable fiscal policies. From the gas price rollback to the focus on revenue reform and job creation. What does this all mean for the average citizen and the wider economy? Let's find out. Good morning, Dr. Watson, and welcome.
Good morning and thanks very much. I love to be here and I am hoping that I make a difference this morning.
I'm sure that you will, and thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. One of the most important things, as would have been mentioned in a previous conversation, is really unpacking what has happened, but in a way that we all can understand, because lots of big terms are used, numbers are used as well. But the reality is, for those that it affects right here on the ground, we do need to have some things broken down. But before we get into that, Dr. Watson, immediately, let's start with the big picture. What is your take on this year's budget?
Let me say that I think it's going to be a popular budget, it having been read, and I'm quite sure it will become even more popular when some of the details begin to be known. I would have wanted myself to concentrate this morning a little bit about the stings, the possible potential stings in the tail of the budget that are not obvious. Of course, when the minister is quite a performer, and you have to congratulate him for that we were not bored at all listening to him yesterday. But some of the things that are going to be stinging were not very obvious, and even I had to go back and look at it. And I'm not even sure that I have it right, but I want to speak a little bit about these things this morning. Yes, we all were happy, I myself, about the fall in the gas prices and and some of the other goodies that are there. But what was not obvious was some of the potential baddies, and they're not terrible. I am not intending in any way to take the wind out of the sail of the minister or of the government, but I do wish to draw attention to some of these things this morning. And if you would allow me, I could go into at least one of them for the moment. Mm-hmm. And one of these things that I see is the fact that people who are not going to be retiring at age 60 on the 1st of January, may even be the 31st of December 2027, or the 1st of January 2028, they are going to be adding up from 1 to 5 years to their working life in order to benefit from the full NIS pension. Let me say, suppose I am retiring. I was supposed to retire. I was turning 60 on let's say the 5th of March 2029. I would have been retiring at that date, but now I'd have to postpone it to the 5th of March 2030. So I will be retiring at age 61. And similarly for the person who will be 2 years behind, 2028, he or she will be adding 2 years onto their working life if they are to benefit from the pension. So I don't know, maybe some people will be happy about this. In fact, I think that the age, and let me add this, I think it is long overdue that the working age should have been changed. We are not as fragile as we were when our grandparents were our age. We are healthier, notwithstanding the fact that many of us suffer from all kinds of little, the diseases. But we are healthier, and we do have a longer life, and we can have a longer working life. So I think it is a good idea to extend the working life. But what is likely to happen if people were planning to retire at age 60 in 2029, 2030, or 2031, so they're going to find that in order to get the full benefit of the NIS contributions and so on, they will have to postpone retirement by 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, up to 5, until they reach the final group that will go up to age 65. So, for instance, someone who is 50 years old is definitely now going to go to age 65 in order to, but even if you're closer than that, and the arithmetic is relatively simple. You could work it out and see. So it is it may put a change to your plans. That's what I'm saying. I myself, if I were a teacher, for instance, I would have been happy, because I don't think I would have been ready to retire at age 60. Even when I left my job at age 65, because that's the university's retirement age, I thought I could have gone another 5 years or so. And I am now 73. And I still feel that I could have offered something, but the law required that we retired. So that's the first thing that should become obvious to those who are listening. You are likely to have, and I'm quite sure I'm correct in this, you're going to have added years in order to benefit. Of course, you could retire anytime, and nobody can prevent you from retiring. Yeah. But to get the benefit of your NIS, your full benefit. I don't know if you retire at an earlier age, if you're going to get a partial amount. I don't know. I really don't know what these things are going. The details are going to be revealed later on in the final documents. And that, however, is going to require legislative amendment. And I don't think you can just in a budget announce the change of the retirement age, which is what was done without going through the proper procedures. And I'm not sure how long that will take. So maybe it will not begin to be implemented on the 1st of January 2028. They may have to push it forward a little bit, depending on how slow or how fast they get through with the legislative changes. I mean, I am assuming that they have to change it. I'm not a lawyer, but I am quite sure that they'll have to change the law in order to be able to do that. The second sting I want to mention, it's not a big sting, and it's going to affect largely those people, like public servants, whose employers are responsible for the way they pay their NIS and so on, is that there's a 3% increase. Now, you see, a lot of the first thing that I mentioned, and this second one as well, is a brave attempt to save the NIS. And I think that is a noble gesture. I don't think that the government is wrong to try and save it. It is just that those who are currently in the system are going to be paying the price for the ills that were done in the past. During my time, for instance, and that is what is happening. So you see that there's a 3% increase in NIS. So yes, nice 10% increase for the public servants, not for teachers, but for public servants generally. But there's going to be a 3% increase in your NIS contribution. In the first instance, I think it begins on the first day of 2026. And then on the first day of 2027, the first working day of 2027, it's going to start and there is going to be a further 3% added on. So that is the second thing. So whereas the Lord giveth with the 10% and so on, and with the fall in the gas price and so on, the Lord is taking away through NIS contributions. And I must thank you, because you are in that category. You're going to be paying for my NIS. See that, because that is what is happening. Right? If you don't pay, I don't get. And I encourage you to pay, and I encourage you to enjoy paying the extra 3% and so on. And that is what is going to happen. Those to come to pay for those who are in the system. That's how it works. That's just how it works. When we make the contributions today, when I was making it, it was for my grandfather and my mother. And you pay today for me, and that's how it's going to work. And your children are going to be paying for you, and so on. So that is, in a way, the second sting. There are other stings, like the increase in the import prices, the tax on rum, and so on. It's going to affect a lot of us. A lot of us who like to imbibe a little. I don't smoke. At least I don't smoke anymore, so I'm not going to be affected by that. But a lot of these, because of the increase in prices and some of these things, like you saw that the import prices on some things are going to go up. You mentioned the one on agriculture, which is good, because I want to speak on the diversification trust as well. I don't know if I'll have the time. But
well, Dr. Watson, just to jump in, not to interrupt you, but we do have about 6 minutes left.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so anyway, a lot of the increased costs, rentals and so on, for instance, are going to be passed on to us. That is the reality. So that's a sting in the tail that many of us did not see because we were too taken up, and quite correctly so, with I'm not trying to take anything away from what I think is a very good budget. It's a people-centered budget to a large extent. The promise that the public servants would be paid at least their 10%, because they're back to the negotiating table. It's just that the initial offer is now 10%. That is how it's going to go, but they're still going to have to conclude the negotiations and so on. And maybe they may wish to go for more. Maybe they will be happy with the 10%, and maybe they will be willing to sign off in the morning, and all that's fine. But there will be added costs along the way as well. So that is fundamentally, those are the some of these things that I wanted to talk about. That the increased charges to what I would call the businesses, they have the ability to pass it on to us. That depends on a lot of things. Sometimes they try to pass it on because of what economists call the elasticity of the good, or the inelasticity of the price inelasticity of the good. Sometimes not every price you raise you can pass on everything. You can't. It will have to be totally inelastic for you to do that. I don't know how much of your economics you remember, and so on. But it depending on the amount that you're willing, they are going to attempt to pass on some of these costs onto the consumer. Let me say a little bit about the diversification trust there. I was genuinely hoping, and maybe the hope was a little bit too strong, because Minister Tanku mentioned the mess, and I have no doubt that we have been put in a mess. There's no doubt. And that they have to sort out, and this budget is more about dealing with current difficulties than really looking at the longer term. And the longer term is diversification. If we don't diversify the economy, we are going to find ourselves in a tailspin over and over again. We're going to be counting on dragon gas with all the political implications and all the political uncertainties associated with that. The time has long gone. And because we have missed the best time, the second best time is now. Now is the time to begin looking at other sectors. Now, diversification in the context of a country like Trinidad and Tobago could mean only one thing. It means the production of goods and services that give us foreign exchange, because we depend crucially on foreign exchange. Everything I have on me right now, and I deliberately put on the shirt and this chain and all these things in my ears, my glasses, they all come from abroad. Everything we do and almost everything we eat, it comes from abroad. We are going to have to learn to earn foreign exchange, and so tomorrow we are not going to be hearing businessmen who produce absolutely no foreign exchange complaining about the inability to get foreign exchange. It's one thing to get foreign exchange if what you're going to do is earn more. Everybody uses foreign exchange. Even those who earn foreign exchange, they use foreign exchange. So what you're interested in the case of any producer, is his or her ability to earn a net amount of foreign exchange to add to the kitty. Foreign exchange does not grow on a foreign exchange tree. And we are not lucky, like, for instance, people who live in Martinique, whose currency is the euro. Their currency is accepted if they go anywhere in the world. Nobody else accepts the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, not even those in St. Vincent, not even those in Barbados. I mean, they may, but as you go further and further away, they're not going to be interested in it at all. So diversification must equal foreign exchange earning. And that is what it is about.
Dr. Watson, I have to jump in here because unfortunately we have run out of time, but I want to thank you for joining us and hoping that we'll be able to chat again soon to get more further into discussion.
Okay, my pleasure.
Dr. Patrick Watson here with us this morning, economist, speaking about how it will impact your life budget 2025 to 2026. Stay tuned. There's more coming up after this break.